Do you know the difference between leading and managing? Many people use the words interchangeably to mean the same thing. But is there a difference? And if there is, what is it? In this video, I'm going to explain the fundamental differences between leading and managing in terms of the Leadership Inside Out framework, and how this perspective can transform the way you lead and manage your people. But before we dive in, take a moment to click the subscribe button below so you're sure to get more Leadership Inside Out videos. Okay, firstly, I want to emphasize that it is useful to define the two terms management and leadership as being different because it gives each word a sharper, clearer meaning and allows you more nuance in your use of language. Secondly, I'm aware that defining words is hazardous. Not everyone will agree, and meanings can change over time. So, the definitions I will use are going to be loose and flexible up to a point. If you ask Google AI for quotes on the difference between management and leadership, it puts Peter Drucker, the famous management consultant, at the top with his quote, "Management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right thing." Now that immediately introduces an ethical dimension to leadership, which is perhaps missing from management. But absolving management of doing the right thing is not unlike the infamous Nuremberg defense, which said that an individual is not guilty of a crime because they were only following the orders of a superior. Does that mean a manager is doing fine if they are doing the wrong thing, but at least doing it right? Do you buy that? I'm not sure I do. So immediately we have a good instance of one of my tenets that good leaders have to be able to manage and good managers have to be able to lead. In other words, someone that can only manage or only lead is about as much use as a solar-powered torch. Now, Ross Perot, who ran for the US presidency in 92 and 96, said, "You manage things, you lead people." This quote certainly draws a very sharp line between the two. A bit too sharp in my estimation, simply because, as I hope to illustrate further on, you can and absolutely should manage people in certain circumstances. A respected CEO acquaintance of mine would disagree with me on this, and we've aired the differences on LinkedIn. Interestingly, both of us get support. Anyway, we certainly do agree that there is a difference between leading and managing. The Chinese philosopher from the 6th century BC, Lao Tzu, said, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. They will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" I have a lot of respect for this view, which hints at the inner nature of leadership compared to the outer aspects of management. Lao Tzu doesn't bother with management at all. Now it's time to share one of my favourite analogies which compares leadership and management to throwing a pot. If you're not quite sure what throwing a pot is, think of the famous scene from the film Ghost, where you put a blob of wet clay on a potter's wheel and shape it with both hands while it's spinning. As you form the pot, you'll have one hand inside, gently pushing out, and the other hand inside, gently restraining it. If you get the balance right and allow the inner hand to push slightly more than the outer hand, you'll be able to create the shape you want. You need both hands. If you take the outer hand away, you'll end up with wet clay all over you and the walls. Take away the inner hand, and you'll be left with a misshapen blob spinning hopelessly on the wheel. The interplay between your two hands is critical. Hopefully, by now you can see where I'm going with this. If not, here's the spoiler. The inner hand is leadership, and the outer hand is management. Metaphorically, the inner hand is leading because it is gently pressing the clay outward to expand, to go where it hasn't gone before, to become more than it was. The outer hand is pushing back, but not quite as much as the inner hand is pushing out, and by doing so in a balanced way is providing the structure, restraint, and discipline needed to create a beautiful pot. This analogy works at different levels. For instance, you can't reverse the process. You can't shrink the pot. If you try by pushing harder with the outer hand of management, the pot will collapse. In an organization, if you start to overmanage, good people will leave. If you try to accelerate the process with more push from the inner hand of leadership beyond a certain point, the pot will deform. Similarly, in a team or organisation, if you remove all checks, balances and disciplines, chaos ensues. This is a very powerful way of understanding leadership and management. It doesn't belittle management, as many people do, showing how both need each other for anything vaguely constructive to take place. Remove leadership, you get stasis, stagnation and zero growth, a kind of organisational constipation. Remove management, you get disorder, chaos and rampant growth, a type of organisational cancer. Now, if you're thinking, how can I lead my people if I'm just not a very good manager? Fear not. You can delegate management to others. In fact, this is advisable. Always delegate to those who are better at the task than you. But what if I'm a really good manager but not such a good leader? Now, that question opens up a really important aspect of leadership, which is about vision. The vision stands as the single most important element of leadership. It's a kind of vector which provides both the direction of the team or organisation and the energy to realise it. Whoever holds the vision is the de facto leader. So if you hold the vision, you are the leader, whatever your skill set and your job title. And this explains the many conspiracy theories around who is actually in charge of the likes of banks, corporations and governments. The so-called power behind the throne is whoever holds the most powerful vision. You can see this very clearly in UK politics, just now with the main opposition party having a much clearer vision than the incumbent party. Whether you like it or not, the vision is clearer and, for many, more compelling. The result is that the opposition is having a real influence over the government without having any executive power at all. So how does all this stuff about throwing pots translate into real action? Firstly, leadership must have the upper hand, or is that the inner hand? There must be a net force outwards propelling growth, innovation, creativity, change and evolution. This is why, in general, the top role in an organisation is one of leadership, not management. How do you do it? You do it through your vision. Your vision is the key to inspiring others to follow you on the journey in order to make the vision a reality. This reveals another really important distinction between management and leaders. Managers motivate whilst leaders inspire. Motivation is an external energy which is generally fear-based. Do this and you'll face disciplinary action. Do that and you'll get a promotion. Motivation is a short-term measure to get action, but it doesn't last. Give someone a pay rise to keep them from leaving. It'll work for a while, but soon enough they'll be off. It's a bit like taking an aspirin for toothache. It won't solve the underlying problem. Leadership, on the other hand, uses the vision to inspire people by resonating with their inner sense of purpose. This taps an inner energy which is inexhaustible and comes from them, not you. You'll always need inspiration for a healthy team or organisation. Sometimes you'll need to motivate too. You won't inspire someone who can't pay their mortgage. So, to summarise, leadership and management are quite distinct, but they cannot exist without each other. Leadership is an inner expansive force, management is an outer constraining force. Their balance is critical. If you look at your role through this lens, you'll make more sense of some of the dynamics you're dealing with, much more so than if you conflate leading and managing, or worse still, label one as good and the other as bad. That way you can transform your impact as a leader and a manager. If you've got value from this video, click on the like button and subscribe to my channel below. See you in the next video.